Did you see what they said? My name's Nancy Young, and I've been asked to read a chapter of the book called Socks, written by Beverly Cleary. Chapter 1, The Kitten Sale. The tabby kitten hooked his white paws over the edge of the book marked Kittens, 25 cents or best offer. The girl with the stringy hair and sunburned arms picked him up and set him down in the midst of his wiggling, crawling, mewing brothers and sisters. He wanted to get out. She wanted him to stay in. The puzzling struggle had gone on all morning in the space between the mailbox and the newspaper rack near the door of the supermarket. "Nice fresh kittens for sale," called out the girl whose name was Debbie. She usually held the kitten in her arms, and he expected her to hold him now. "Stupid," said her brother George, embarrassed to be selling kittens with his younger sister on a summer morning. "Who ever heard of fresh kittens?" "Me," said Debbie, as she pushed the kitten down once more. Then she repeated at the top of her voice, "Nice fresh kittens for sale." She knew she was not stupid, and she enjoyed annoying her brother. The two had quarreled at breakfast. George and Debbie should sell the kittens because she played with them, and that made them hers. Debbie said George should sell the kittens because she didn't know how to make change. Besides, he was the one who had brought the mother home when she was a kitten, so that made her kittens his. Their father said, "Stop bickering, you two. You can both sell them," and that was that. The white-pawed kitten, unaware of the hard feelings between brother and sister, tried again. He stepped on another kitten and this time managed to lift his chin over the rim of the carton. His surprised blue eyes took in a parking lot full of shoppers pushing grocery carts among cars glittering in the summer heat. He was fascinated and frightened. "Now, Socks," said Debbie as she unhooked his claws from the cardboard box, "be a good kitten." Socks' white and orange sister caught his tail and bit it. Socks rolled over on his back and swiped at her with one white paw. He no longer, excuse me a minute, guys, as I turn the page, felt playful toward a litter mate who bit his tail. Now that he was 7 weeks old, he wanted to escape from all the rolling, pouncing, and nipping that went on inside the box. Unfortunately, no shopper was willing to buy Socks his freedom. Several paused to smile at the sign, and then Socks found himself shoved to the bottom of the heap by Debbie. "What are you going to do with all the money when you sell the kittens?" asked an elderly woman who was lonely for her own grandchildren. "Daddy says we should save up to have the mother cat shoveled, so she won't have kittens all the time," answered Debbie. "Spayed," corrected George. "She means he said we should have the mother spayed." "Oh my," said the woman, and hurried into the market. I want to take a minute to tell you about spaying and neutering dogs and cats. That's what I do as a volunteer with Mountaineer Spay Neuter Assistance Program, and it's very important, and your mom and dad can tell you all about spaying and neutering your kitties and puppies. "Stupid," said George. "Anyway, Dad was joking, I think." This time, Debbie looked as if she agreed with her brother that she might be stupid. "What are you going to do?" she asked as she plucked Socks from the edge of the carton once more. "Nobody wants you." "Mark them down, I guess. Dad said to give them away if we had to." The boy borrowed a felt-tip pen from a checker in the market, and while Socks peered over the edge of the carton, crossed out the 25 cents on his sign and wrote 20 cents above it. "Kittens for sale." Debbie's voice sounded encouraging as she hid Socks under two of his litter mates. He promptly wiggled out. On a day like this, his own fur was warm enough. "Why do you keep hiding Socks?" George tried to look as if he was surprised to be standing in a mailbox and had nothing to do with the kittens. "Because he's the best kitten, and I want to keep him," said Debbie. "Dad won't let you," her brother reminded her. "He says the house is getting to smell like cats." Socks found himself plucked from the litter and cradled in his girl's arms. "Well, at least we can find a good home for him." Debbie was admitting the truth of her brother's statement. "I don't want just anybody to take Socks." "You don't see a line of people forming to buy kittens, do you?" asked George. To pass the time, he had read the headlines of the newspapers in the rack and the labels on the mailbox, and was starting in on signs posted in the window of the market. Socks tried to climb Debbie's T-shirt, but she held him back while she watched the faces of the shoppers for signs of interest. Once a man approached, but he only wanted to drop her a letter in the mailbox. A woman paused long enough to look at each kitten and then say, "No, I can't bear to think of anything as warm and furry as a kitten on such a hot day." Children entering the market with their parents begged to be allowed to buy a kitten. Just one, please, please, with their very own money, but no one actually bought a kitten. "I guess it just isn't kitten weather," said Debbie. Socks struggled to free himself from the heat of the girl's sweaty arms. "Be good, Socks," said Debbie. "We're trying to find you a nice home." "Fat chance," George had said, finishing reading the signs in the window, and was even more bored. Special prices on ground beef and soap and announcements of cake sales did not interest him. A woman with her hair on rollers, wearing a muumuu and a rubber thong sandal, herded 3 children and a tired-looking mongrel across the parking lot. A mongrel is a dog. The tallest, a girl barely old enough to read, shrieked, "Mommy, look, a kitten sale!" I want one, and shouted her younger brother and sister. Debbie and George exchanged a look. The dog, sensing a long argument, lay down in front of the market door where customers had to step over him. Panting used up all of his energy, and he had none left with which to investigate kittens. "I want that one with the white feet," said the boy who was wearing new swimming trunks. "I saw him first," the younger girl shoved her brother. "Cut it out, you two," ordered the mother, guiding her brood across the traffic lane. "Not Socks, please, not Socks." There was desperation in Debbie's whisper. Socks could feel thumping beneath her t-shirt as she held him closer. "They're the kind that will squeeze him and forget to give him water. I can tell." George did not answer, but he frowned as the 3 children approached. He had good reason to quarrel with his sister, but that did not mean he approved of quarreling. The oldest of the 3 joined the squabble. "I get him because I'm the oldest. You 2 can have Bad Dog." The dog, hearing his name, lifted his head and decided nothing of importance was happening, and dropped it again. The younger girl, who was wearing her sister's outgrown shorts and blouse, objected. "Just because you're oldest, you always think you can have everything." How many of you have an older sister or brother that you quarrel with sometimes? Not really being mad, but just quarreling. Yeah? We all have older or younger brothers and sisters, I hope. Anyway. "No fair," shouted the boy. "Bad Dog belongs to all of us." Debbie unhooked the kitten's claws from her t-shirt and tried to hide him behind her back. Socks struggled. Until this morning, Debbie always had been careful to support his feet when she held him, and she never had squeezed before. "I want that one with the white feet the girl is hiding," said the older girl. Me too, me too." The boy jumped up and down and clutched his swimming trunks, which his mother had bought for him to grow into. "I know," the younger sister had found a solution. "Mommy can buy us each a kitten." "That's what you think," said the weary mother. "One is plenty. We'll take the one with the white feet." Socks had almost wiggled free when a second pair of hands seized him. He felt himself being lifted. Metal creaked. The hands thrust him into darkness, and he found himself falling. He landed on something smooth in the dark, stifling place. Above he heard a creak and a clang. Outside he heard shouting and the sound of Debbie's bursting into tears. The strangest things had happened to Socks that morning. "He mailed him!" cried the small boy. "That big boy mailed the kitten I wanted." "The one I wanted," contradicted his big sister. "Cut it out, you kids," said the mother. The little girl shrieked, "Mommy, he hit me!" Now she had his brother in the wrong. Socks slipped and slid on the letters that crackled beneath his paws as he explored the dark mailbox. The place was sweltering hot, but it was free from older kittens. For the first time in 7 weeks of life, Socks had found a place where no one could step on his face or bite his tail. He lay down on the letters to catch up on the rest he had missed that morning. Outside, the commotion continued. "I'm fed up with you kids fighting all the time," said the mother. "Just for that, we won't buy a kitten at all." All 3 children protested. "No fair. You said we could buy a kitten. You promised. Please, Mommy, just one. We won't fight any more. Honest." "Come along," said the mother, relieved to have an excuse for leaving the kitten behind. "I'll buy you popsicles." I need a kitten like a hole in the head." This decision was followed by shouts of, "I want lime, I want grape, I don't want a popsicle, I want a Slurpee." Socks was discovering that the heat inside the box made him sleepy. The chute at the top opened. "Socks, are you all right down there?" Socks recognized, "Are you all right down there?" was Debbie's voice. It sounded loud and hollow. Then she demanded of her brother, "How are you going to get him out? He'll roast if you leave him in there. He'll starve. He'll die." She tried to cool the box by opening and closing the creaking chute. "You didn't want a bunch of fighting kids to get him, did you?" said George. "You wanted him to go to a good home, didn't you?" "How can we sell him when he's in the mailbox?" asked Debbie. "Nobody can see him." "Look," said George, "it says on the mailbox that the mailbox will be picked up at 11:23 a.m. The clock in the market says 11:15. All we have to do is wait for the mailbox to unlock the box, and we'll get Socks back." There was a loud sniffle outside the mailbox. "Are you sure the mailbox will give him back?" Hope and respect for her brother had replaced fear and anger in Debbie's voice. "Sure, I'm sure," said George. "The post office doesn't want kittens any more than anyone else." "I hope nobody wants to mail a package before 11:23. It seems it might hit Socks." The tears were gone from Debbie's voice. "Nice fresh kittens for sale," she called out as she tried to fan air into the mailbox. Socks stretched out panting, puzzled by all that had happened. A letter falling from above was only another puzzlement, but the heat forced him to mew in distress. "Hang on, Socks," Debbie's voice echoed down the chute. "Help is coming." At precisely 23 minutes after 11, as he lay gasping in the letters, Socks was frightened by the sounds of keys rattling against the metal. Before he could move, the side of the box dropped down, and he lay blinking in the glare of the sun before an audience of shoppers. "Well, how about that?" said the driver of the mailbox when he saw the kitten. "Socks!" cried Debbie, rescuing her kitten from the letters. "Don't you know it's a federal offense to tamper with United States mail?" asked the driver as he scooped mail into the sack. Debbie looked so alarmed that he said, "Relax, I'm only joking. A kitten doesn't count as mail. Unless he has stamps stuck on his head, and even then, I'm not sure." The scene attracted more shoppers. A young couple pushing a cart of groceries toward the parking lot paused to watch what was going on. Debbie, trusting their appearance, held Socks up for their inspection. "This is Socks," she said. "We named him Socks because he looks like he's wearing white socks." "He's the smartest kitten in the bunch," said George, his voice brimming with hope. If they sold one kitten, they could sell more, and he would be free to go to the library. Unaware that his future was about to be decided, Socks struggled and mewed to be put down. Debbie would not let him go. "See," she said to the young couple, "he likes you. Look at his little white paws and his little pointy tail," cried the woman, whose name was Marilyn Bricker. "And look at his beautiful markings, those black stripes on his head and the black rings around his tail like the rings on a raccoon's tail. And those little white socks. Oh, Bill, we must take him. We need a cat to sleep in front of the fireplace this winter now that we have a house." "He's a very smart kitten," George pressed the sale. "He's housebroken, too." "I always wanted a kitten when I was a kid," remarked Bill, "but my mother didn't like cats." "Then you should have a kitten now," said his wife. Debbie and George exchanged a look that wiped away their disagreements of the morning. They were about to sell a kitten. Mr. Bricker reached in his pocket of his jeans for change. 50 cents is the best offer I can make," he said with a smile. "Oh, that's all right." Debbie was willing to be generous. "Daddy said to give them away if we had to." "Thank you," said George, as he accepted 2 25-cent pieces. Debbie felt she should say something to make the transition official. "Satisfaction guaranteed, or your money back." She thought better of what she was about to say and instead handed the kitten to Mrs. Bricker. "Bye, Socks," she said. "Be a good kitten." Socks found himself cuddled, not squeezed, in the arms of the strange Mrs. Bricker, while George said to his sister, "Look, if you're ever going to learn to make change, you've got to learn that 50 cents is a lot more than 25 cents. Socks, did you hear what the girl said?" Mrs. Bricker stroked the tabby markings on the tiny head. "She said, 'Satisfaction guaranteed.'" Socks' eyes were closing. He was worn out by all that had happened that morning. "To us or the kitten?" said Mrs. Bricker, as he lifted the boxes of groceries over the tailgate of an old station wagon. "To the kitten, of course," Mrs. Marilyn Bricker laughed affectionately. "I know you and your heart of jello." The end.